Aversion therapy. Aversion therapy involves the behavioural technique of classical conditioning. The abused substance and its use are paired with an unpleasant stimulus/response so that the behaviour is no longer enjoyed by the abuser. Smith, 1988, studied a group of 327 participants in Stop Smoking program were given aversion therapy that consisted of painful electric shocks self-administered through a wristband when they carried out any smoking-related behaviour. In the later support phase, clients were given an elastic wristband on their smoking wrist to snap to simulate the electric shock if they felt the urge to smoke after the treatment was over. Effectiveness. The results of the intervention showed that long-term effectiveness is 52% of the clients had abstained from smoking for 12 months. Relapse was much more common when the client returned to a smoking household, 70%, than when they returned to a smoke-free household, only 40%. Evaluation. The use of unpleasant electric shocks raises an ethical concern of physical and psychological harm to the client. However, the clients are volunteers and many clients reported that they found the treatment to be less unpleasant than other kinds of talking therapy. Behavioural therapy eliminates the behaviour but not the cause of the problem. Addicts need to learn how to cope with in a more adaptive way, otherwise another addiction may develop. Evaluation for psychological therapies. Requires high levels of motivation from the client if they are to succeed. Expensive and time-consuming treatment, so less likely to be available to a majority of addicts. High relapse rates, particularly if a person returns to smoking households, illustrate that there are many factors that influence smoking behaviour, for example, cues associated with smoking and lifestyle issues. The definition of successful treatment varies between people. Abstinence might be a clearer and more easily measurable outcome, but gaining control over substances and improving your lifestyle can also be beneficial. Public health interventions. Ban on smoking in enclosed public spaces. In 2007, legislation came into force in the UK making it illegal to smoke in public buildings. Learning theory. Banning smoking in public places will reduce the cues associated with smoking, making it less likely that people will respond to smoking triggers. Social learning theory. The removal of smoking role models should reduce uptake as there will be less opportunity for learning via imitation. Theory of planned behaviour. Banning smoking should alter the social norms about the prevalence of smoking. Less people appear to smoke, making it more likely that a person will be able to quit. Effectiveness. In the UK, cigarette sales have decreased since the ban in 2007 by 7% in the first month following the ban, and cigarette consumption is falling by 2% annually. However, measuring effectiveness is difficult. For example, Gomel et al. 1993 studied ambulance workers in Australia following the introduction of smoking ban in their workplace. The results showed that although participants reported smoking less, blood tests revealed that they may have been compensating for non-smoking in work by smoking more outside work hours. Isolating the effectiveness of public health interventions is difficult because people may also be influenced in their decision to quit by other factors. Evaluation. Smokers who quit successfully tend to give up in groups rather than isolated individuals. Fowler and Christakis, 2008. For example, a friend or colleague quitting decreases the chances of smoking in others by 36%. This shows the importance of social support when giving up smoking, and this means that banning smoking in public places, like workplaces, is an appropriate intervention. However, there is also the danger that a ban encourages a sense of group solidarity amongst the remaining smokers, making the habit seem more attractive. Warning messages and graphic images on cigarette packets. Tobacco packaging warning messages and graphic images appear on the packaging of cigarettes and other tobacco products concerning the health effects of those products. They have been implemented in an effort to enhance the public's awareness of the harmful effects of smoking. Learning theory. Strong warning labels also counter the persuasive images of the tobacco industry use to market their products. The use of graphic images is an important means of replacing those positive associations of smoking with negative associations. Cognitive approach. Graphic images correct the faulty thinking about the health risks of smoking. Theory of planned behaviour. Personal attitudes. The graphic warnings decrease the attractiveness and appeal of cigarettes and are intended to arouse fear of smoking, social norms, and help to create an environment where non-smoking is the norm. Effectiveness. Fong, 2013, reported on a decade-long study that surveyed thousands of smokers in more than 20 countries, tracking the effects of graphic warning labels. They asked smokers how often they noticed the warnings and how the warnings had affected their thoughts and behaviours. When Thailand moved from text-only to large graphic warnings in 2006, the number of Thai smokers who said that the warning labels made them think a lot about the health risks of smoking increased by 55%, and the number who said that the labels made them a lot more likely to quit increased by 41%. Nearby Malaysia, which kept its small text-only labels, saw no such attitude changes that year. However, this research only measures attitudes, not whether people actually quit smoking. Hammond and Fong, 2003, studied more than 600 Canadian smokers, found that smokers who said they had read, thought about and discussed Canada's recently implemented graphic warning labels were significantly more likely to have tried to quit 3 months later, and government reports from both the United Kingdom and Brazil found that calls to national cigarette quitting helplines increased significantly after those countries introduced graphic warning labels, showing that they can have an influence on behaviour. However, Moody et al. 2013 surveyed 1,401 children in the UK aged 11 to 16 in 2008, when health warnings on cigarette packets were text only, and a separate repeat sample of 1,373 children in 2011, after graphic images had been introduced. They found in both 2008 and 2011, most children, more than 80%, thought that warnings could put them off smoking or make them less likely to smoke, with a slight increase in proportions from 2008 to 2011. However, when analysed by smoking status, the increases were restricted to never and experimental smokers. This suggests that the images do not have an effect on children who are already smoking. Many children who are regular smokers reported hiding the pack to escape the health image and say that seeing the images leads to stress, making it more likely that they will smoke. This suggests that the warnings are not universally effective. Problems with measuring effectiveness of public health interventions. Many factors can influence smoking rates, making it impossible to isolate the effect of graphic warning labels or other individual anti-smoking efforts. For example, at the same time that a country introduces new labels, it might also introduce a new tax that increases the price of cigarettes, or it might ban cigarettes in restaurants, bars, and other public places. Smokers may also be taking individual measures to help them quit, for example, nicotine replacement therapy. This makes it difficult to assess the effectiveness of public policy. Warning messages and graphic images on cigarette packets.